So, all right, welcome to the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. This is where we're doing more interviews. Like I promised, I'm going to start interviewing more Scrum Masters, Agile Coaches, product owners, anybody in the Agile space, developers, and get some more information besides from myself and get some interaction. And today we have Scott Sampson. Scott's an experienced Scrum Master and Agile Coach. And we met a few years ago, right, Scott? Like
Yeah,
I was doing my coaching program, I offered it up, and you're like, "I'll take advantage of it. Why
I
not?"
raised my hand. I raised my
You
hand for
raised your
sure.
hand, experiment on you. You were one of my experimental people. Um, Now this interview is not the classic interview of like Scrum. How do you do Scrum? And this is more about what Scott brings to the table and things he's experienced. And got a couple questions and we'll go with that. And with that, Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, sure. So
And don't forget to
currently,
include stuff outside the office.
I definitely will include
Okay.
that. So currently, I'm a Scrum Master for a fintech in the Philadelphia area. Scrum Master and Agile Coach for a fintech in the Philly area. Um, and basically, you know, been in the Philadelphia area for a long time. Have worked for a few different companies in the area. In different IT roles, business systems analyst roles, project management, and of course the Scrum Master role. And yeah, so that's kind of like my current situation. And then as far as hobbies and stuff outside of work, most of the time I'm on the field on some kind of athletic field watching my daughter play sports. She's usually involved with numerous sports, mostly at the same time. And so my wife and I are always there supporting her, and we also help coach her softball team and her travel team in
Okay.
softball. And let's see, besides that, when when I have some spare time, actually it's a recurring session, but I do play Dungeons and Dragons every Saturday with virtually with folks across the country. So I do get a chance to do that, and that's really my focus is work, my daughter,
There you go.
and D&D.
Now I'll have to ask you: do you ever apply any of your D&D to your Scrum Master and your teams? Do you try to bring that into the conversation,
You
or
know,
you leave that off to the side? It's like, yeah, they don't need to know. Do they? Now let me ask you: do they know that you play Dungeons and Dragons?
they do, they do.
Okay.
In speaking with my teams, especially in one-on-ones, I do talk about my hobbies because I ask them about their hobbies because I want to know
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing outside of work to
Mm-hmm.
balance their lives. And sometimes they've heard of it. Other times, yeah, they know what it is, but it's kind of a hit or miss. Will other folks remember what that is? Oh,
Bubbles is here.
Bubbles makes an appearance.
Bubbles makes appearance. He heard me in the office. It's like, ooh. So, okay. So, talk about your experience a little bit as Scrum Master, like how you got there and where you're journeying today. Um, how'd you find your way through this spot? And think about people that are new to becoming, want to become Scrum Masters. Maybe they've been a Scrum Master a while. Maybe they're thinking about becoming a little bit of an Agile coach.
Yeah. So, like had alluded to before, and well, I'll kind of back up to give some context. So I've always been kind of partial to the human side of working, meaning, that versus like an operational side per
Mm-hmm.
se. So I have a in a previous life, I had an extensive human resources background where, I was a human resources recruiter, HR manager, um, and so I was kind of like predis predisposition to going in that way where I wanted to help people grow and find their path.
Mm-hmm.
And when I transitioned into IT from HR, I moved into initially a business systems analyst role where I was working with people and trying to gather requirements and those types of things and help them develop the systems that they wanted. Um, so I think it comes from like that, moving that through that progression of, for me personally, like a BSA project manager, wanting to plan, loving the IT space, wanting to help people grow. I think
Right.
putting those things together helped me find my path when I learned what a Scrum Master actually was and said, "Wow,
Mm-hmm.
this is awesome." Um, and I knew I wanted to pursue that path like 2 years before I was actually a Scrum Master. Like I was
Right.
headed down that road, just because I liked what it encompassed, and I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Okay. Okay. Um, how about how did you evolve into the agile coaching shift to quasi Scrum Master slash agile coaching? What made you go down that route a little bit?
Um, just seeing that I could, just learning about what agile coaching was and seeing how it kind of, you know, Scrum Master is an agile coach as well, but
Mm-hmm.
seeing how you can add that expanded um,
Right.
piece to the Scrum Master role
Uh huh.
really interested me,
Yeah.
and I could work more in depth with folks to help them grow in one-on-one situations, in a group team situation. So once I learned what that was, I'm like, yeah, let's pursue that because that'll deepen my knowledge and my ability to help teams and people even more so.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what attracted me to that, and that's why I
Okay.
pursued it.
Cool. Okay. So I have to be open a little bit here. So Scott is currently participating in our 5 a.m. Mester Scrum
Yes.
Agile OKR Mastermind group that we have started this year. And can you share a little bit of why you joined, how it influenced you to do this interview, right? And also, by the way, Scott's going to present on at our Meetup group on Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. Yeah, 2023. And wanted to share that out. So, Scott, could you talk about what made you take this other activity?
Yeah, yeah. So Greg, when I saw you were doing the mastermind, I wanted to join because I wanted to. I'm always looking to develop myself,
Mm-hmm.
and so I wanted to be with like-minded individuals
Right.
who could help me grow, and I could also help them grow and what their goals are. So when I saw that opportunity, I definitely wanted to pursue it so I could be with those folks and do those things, help them, and they could help me and kind of help me plan out my goals
Mm-hmm.
more effectively, which I think is what the mastermind has done. Uh, Greg, you remember what the goals I came in with my OKRs, and they were very aggressive in some
Yeah.
circumstances,
Yeah.
but and after talking with the group, the mastermind, we kind of pared those down into smaller chunks that were actually doable and manageable. And so that's been one of the benefits of being part of the mastermind.
Yeah. And I remember you were doing some things you were doing, and then I said, but what's the purpose behind you doing that? And I tried forcing you into digging a little deeper on why you wanted to, like, I think one of yours was like read 12 a book a month or something.
Yes,
Like, and then my thing was, well, why do you want to read a book? What do you want out of that book? What do you want to do with that knowledge? Right. And I think that kind of now I'm getting into presenting this stuff. I think actually one of your OKRs now is actually do some more presentations, right?
it is.
And
It is.
and you just reminded me, you got accepted to present where again? Outside the 5
Uh,
a.m. Master Scrum meetup?
yeah, at the Agile Indie monthly meeting, I'll be presenting in June.
Is that Indianapolis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. So you get more practice on that, so
Yes.
that's good. Okay. So now I was gonna ask you about how the role of Scrum Master operates in your company, but I'd rather ask you, how do you think the role of a Scrum Master is with any team, any place that you helicopter in, you go, boom, there's a Scrum Master. So
Yeah, yeah.
how do you see the role of the Scrum Master?
I see it as being currently I'll say servant leader. Obviously, you have
Mm-hmm.
to want to help your teams grow as far as their agile knowledge, agile maturity,
Right.
be able to solve problems. But I also, in addition to that, I think it's someone that likes to problem solve
Mm-hmm.
naturally. You like to get in there and help folks, solve problems more effectively. You may
Right.
not do it for them, but you can help them think about their options and
Yeah.
give them that agency. Make sure they know that they have agency to solve problems on their own versus having to wait for someone else or go to their supervisor to try to get more input. Um, so, and I guess the third thing would be just being approachable,
Yeah.
um, being humble. Kind of this, to me, they kind of go in the
Yeah.
um, same thing. So people are comfortable coming to you with what they want to talk about,
Right.
helping them solve problems, talking through it with them, and having them come up with options that they can pursue
Uh-huh.
for different problems that they're facing. I think is key.
So,
So
so how hard is it that talking about solving problems? I also find it important to hold back from solving their problems, right?
yeah,
You may think because you know stuff and you've done it before and you got this experience, and it's so easy to like go into that mode. Well, here's your answer, right?
yeah.
How is that from a Scrum Master perspective resisting?
Um, you go to that line, right? Like you have to know where to. You don't want to cross that chasm. Like you can take them like to that certain spot,
Right.
but then try to help them work through it themselves. But you really have to not go that entire
Yeah.
problem solving journey with them and solve it for them. So I've been pretty good about that, gotten better. Um, and sometimes you have to let teams fail to
Yeah.
get better. So I think
Yeah.
that's key to the Scrum Master and Agile Coach role as well.
And on that note, describe a big failure, even a little failure that you have seen in Scrum teams, and how you have learned from that failure. What have you learned and taken away? Because the biggest thing, failures are good, but if we don't learn from those failures and grow from them, that's like a key part of that failure part mode.
Yeah. So a key failure I've seen is teams not speaking up in retrospectives. I know
Yeah.
that's a common issue from the folks that I've spoken to in my
Mm-hmm.
career. And I think that's a big miss for teams to not, be able to speak their mind or feel for
Right.
whatever reason it is, they feel like they don't have that psychological safety to, say what they need to say
Mm-hmm.
to make their lives going forward, sprint by sprint, quarter by quarter, happier and, you know, easier for them regarding the work they
Right.
do. So, um, how I have addressed that is, instead of maybe a traditional, setup for
Yeah.
retrospective, like in Jira, like the one that Jira provides, I have moved to Mural,
More mural. Okay.
where, folks can come in, and I always preface the session by saying like this is a safe zone. You can,
Mm-hmm.
feel free to, you know, provide what you need to provide as far as feedback on the
Yeah.
last sprint or whatever. But with using Mural, I can put it, I can make it a fun session, make it a themed session, and they can actually provide feedback incognito,
Right.
anonymously, and operate, on their own accord in the
Mm-hmm.
session on the board themselves.
Right.
And then, if they want to put their name next to a piece of feedback, fine. If not, it can remain anonymous. But I've realized that people enjoy that and they feel more comfortable doing it that way, at least
Mm-hmm.
in my experience. And so I think I've solved that non-participation, or made it better at least, to moving to this new format. And
Right.
we're getting more information out there and getting more feedback that way. So that's something I've done.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good learning just to get them engaged in different ways. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, it keeps
Uh,
things fresh too.
okay. Yeah. Um, what are some strategies that you recommend? I mean, now you're taking some of the Agile Coaches courses, and part of it's facilitation, right? Um, what strategies you recommend on facilitating an Agile team? Is there any good one or two? Not everything, but just like
Um, Yeah, I mean, I think one that I try to do
Mm-hmm.
purposely is give the team space. Kind of going back to what you were talking about before, Greg, not interjecting too early, seeing how the conversation is going, and maybe, you know, getting involved here and there
Mm-hmm.
from a facilitator's perspective. But, it's not interjecting too early. It's not solving the problem for them.
Right.
It's really giving them that agency and space to kind of collaborate and work together to talk out whatever a person or people team needs to talk out.
Yeah.
And I would say that's my one of my biggest ones is trying to give them that time and space to do that versus jumping in too early.
Okay. Okay. And like you said, you also use like Mural um,
I do.
to help facilitate that discussion and provide
Yes.
layouts for ways for them to participate. So that's good too, because that's all part of the facilitation. How do I, if you were to do a brainstorm and no one would give you any information, you got to have an alternate way of getting that information, right? You have to have backup
Right.
plans.
And that's exactly why I tried Mural is because in the past we weren't getting much feedback at all.
Yeah.
So it's come a long way from where it was. And thanks to Mural and facilitation,
Yeah.
it's way better than it was.
How long do you think it did it take you to get a lot of people to participate? I'm kind of curious. How many
Uh,
sprints or time or
um, it was pretty immediate once we crossed over from the traditional verbal,
mm-hmm.
in person providing it, and then the person is identified by
Yeah.
their voice to the
Yeah.
Mural incognito
Yeah.
version. It was pretty quick. It was pretty
Okay.
quick. Once I got the hang of Mural and what we were trying to do, um, they felt, you know, they were anonymous. I think they felt more
Okay.
free to provide the feedback they would want to.
Good. Good. Um how do you what's the keys you do to motivate your agile team? What tell us about your favorite way to lately to motivate your team to, like you said, participate in retros? Do you do anything fun or what do you do to motivate them?
As far as fun things, I've done different things like some of the software we use that I use currently has like question of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll pose that question, and it'll provide the question for you, and you pose it to the team, and it creates a little poll, and you can kind of see like where people land on that. And it's kind of an
Mm-hmm.
icebreaker,
Yeah.
just kind of like right before like a scrum or right
Right.
before a ceremony, just to kind of warm up
Do they get
the folks.
competitive?
I haven't seen much
No.
competitiveness
Okay.
with different topics. But I'll also like, I'll play music before sessions just to kind of get everybody either pumped up or
Okay.
relaxed or whatever. Um, and do just different things like that.
Yeah.
Tell bad dad jokes a lot.
Bad
And I've
dad
actually
jokes.
I've actually gotten I've actually gotten other team members to bring jokes to
Okay.
before the ceremonies to provide to the team. So it's catching
Okay.
on.
Okay. Cool. Um, how do you overcome bad days at work? Like if you're stressed out or you feel like you're not making it, breaking through to the team or something, you're getting frustrated. How do you handle that stress or those bad days?
Yeah, so I try to get away from my desk.
Yeah.
I work from home 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get up and go. And what I try to do is I take a walk,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty much part of my habit daily. I also will meditate.
Okay.
Um, so I use an app for meditation on a
What
daily
app do
basis.
you use for meditation?
It's called Balance.
Balance. Okay.
hmm
Is that
Um, and I'll do that almost every day. Like, and especially if I feel like I need to,
yeah.
I'll go to those things to make sure I do it to try to refocus and get some endorphins going
Yeah.
and then come back to it. Whatever I was facing later after those things, or maybe even the next day.
It's funny you mentioned the meditation. Just before we met, I was listening to a podcast until my phone was dying. Um, and they were talking about if you ever hear of manifesting, and
Yeah.
the guy was talking about all this stuff. He talks about what he does is he meditates for about 5 minutes every morning, just clears it out,
hmm
mellows himself out, gets in tune with the universe, as he would say.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get it. Jerry, are you coming? Come on, Jack. Come on. You coming up? You're gonna take out the whole thing. There's a cat here, and he doesn't know what to do. He's like, should I jump up? Should I take out Dad's stuff? No. Okay. So with that, I think, so we talked about happy stuff, but I want to take it a different twist a little bit.
Okay.
Can you share something that you saw in your team, an interaction or something that just made you happy? When you saw it, you were just like kind of ecstatic. You're like, yes, finally they get it.
Yeah.
Give us an example of something that happened that you witnessed if you're facilitating.
And this is something very simple, but I remember Jerry.
Jerry's here. Jerry's jealous.
Where'd Bubbles go?
Bubbles is here. She's not moving. She is not going to move. She refuses to move.
I would say recently I heard one of the product team, and I believe it was in Scrum. Or it might have been in actually it might have been in sprint planning.
Yeah.
Where they were talking about slicing up the stories into smaller, more manageable pieces.
Right.
And I loved it. I think I might even said to that person, that's awesome that you're doing that. So that's a recent example. It seems simple, but I get excited when I hear any part of the team from the product organization through DevOps, like using the frameworks, tools,
right,
whatever it might be that the Scrum Master uses, using that in their lingo just naturally, makes me happy. I just think that's great.
That's pretty cool. One of the just today I had one. They just did a big release for one of the teams I'm coaching, and one of the developers said, and it was more of a developer conversation, like, let me know if you see anything that comes out and everything. And it wasn't your typical, what did I do yesterday? What am I going to do today? What's blocking me? It was actual communication to the team. Team member to team member. If you see anything like this, let me know. And I was like so happy that they realize it's not just that, how am I doing, but the communication, setting the communication among each other as a team without me facilitating that conversation. I mean, there was a couple times I mentioned some things and like, oh yeah. If you and that's as a facilitator or a scrum master, taking that role, every once in a while I throw that out there, and just to see if they'll feed off something I observe that may be interesting, and then see if the other people. But they came up with all themselves. I didn't say nothing, and it was a nice thing just to see them communicate directly in a scrum to other people in the team, and not to me, because I have no idea. I'm not in the logs and access to all that stuff. So, which I was happy to be. So cool. What's your here's the classic Here's a classic interview question. Like, if you were going for a job, right? What is your favorite Scrum ceremony and why?
I have to go with the retrospective, just because it all fits together, right? The Scrum, right. But retrospective, I think, is critical as part of that whole framework. Allowing the team allows the entire team to come together and talk about, what they've experienced, good or bad. You need those positives too. So I try to, have people talk about, shout outs to a team member who did something great. But also, allows them to continually improve their work over time. And no other space really does that, except, you can do it in real time, obviously, but you're purposely coming together for that reason, and it's dedicated to that improvement, right? So that's just a great jumping off point to have the team grow, and I think it's critical, and that's why I think it's my favorite.
I think it's funny you mentioned, if I'm right, well, I haven't really read the guide, the word focus as one of the values in Scrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, and I think the retrospect just helps you focus on process improvement, not on 50
Right.
million things. You're just here to improve whatever you want to improve on, whether it be team
Right.
interaction or process or whatever. And it
Right.
helps, I think the ceremony helps focus on a particular thing in a particular time and says, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to do this. I think that focus that you said is key to why that retrospective can be successful.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, here's another interview question that typically someone might ask. How have you helped a team in the past, and what are you most proud of? Now,
Um,
for everyone out there, these are like classic Scrum Master, any job. Actually, the two I just asked are like any job questions. But yeah, so what have you helped a team in the past, and what were you if you're putting that on your resume, and you're like, my accomplishment at this job, give us one.
yeah. I mean, of course, the what we talked about earlier with the moving to Mural was a huge
Mm-hmm.
paradigm shift for the
Right.
team. But besides that, I think another proud moment I have was we had the the way things are set up.
Mm-hmm.
We had in the sprint, we'd go through our sprint planning.
Mm-hmm.
Agree the team would agree to the a certain amount of work,
Yeah.
but then we'd always get all these tickets throughout the mid
Okay.
sprint.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and bringing that to the product team on
Mm-hmm.
a regular basis, and helping them figure out what was happening, why wasn't the sprint, why wasn't everything being completed in the sprint? Like, where is this coming from?
Right.
Like, it's kind of, bringing organization to what was happening
Mm-hmm.
and where it was coming from and why. I think helped the product team and the development team, actually the entire team, understand what was happening. And now there have been, steps to try to minimize that as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
When before, I don't think it was fully understood as to why tickets were coming in mid-sprint. So
Okay.
just providing that clarity, I think, was a huge step forward for the team
Cool.
and helped them become more focused. So I'm proud of that.
Okay. So here's a classic Scrum Master thing. So, have you ever had to protect your team? Can you describe the activity that was going on and what you learned from that?
Yeah, so with that last example I just gave, what I did was since we had tickets coming in mid-sprint,
Mm-hmm.
um, it was tough to track. So what I did was I partnered with a colleague to set up a dashboard
Yeah.
that would track when tickets would come in so that we could um, discuss those each day in the next sprint with everyone there, the product team, developers, QA, because it impacts everybody. If more work's coming in, QA also has a set number of work that they're expecting. So if tickets are
Right.
coming in, we need to make some prioritization decisions, right? So it helped the product team maybe remove some stuff from the sprint if these were urgent tickets that were coming in mid-sprint. They could see the dashboard and just the sheer impact of all the tickets coming in on a daily basis. So that was protecting the team is by creating that dashboard and that
Right.
awareness across the team, that protected the team from constantly being bombarded with new work. And like I said before, that's become less of an issue.
So you brought more visibility in there to protect the team. Use that as a tool.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right. Now we could say, you know, the the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum OKR Mastermind group would be part of this, but in the continuous learning, because it's really important. People don't understand. And I've interviewed people in the past where they would show me their resume and I'd talk about it. I'd look at their resume and nothing talks about, like, they got their Scrum Master cert 7 years ago. And there
Hmm.
was nothing else about learning anything else since they got their cert, like taking a class or joined a group or anything like that. So, and I always thought that was like, if I'm going to have everyone on my team to continuously learn, right, and learn from me or share or look at stuff to grow, like in your retrospective, because that's continuous learning.
Hmm.
Has there been a training class, a book that you've read recently that you liked, that you applied to your Scrum Master role? And actually, this is funny because I just realized that because that was part of your OKR.
Yeah. So this book. So I don't know if everybody can see this or
You might
not,
have
but
to de-blur yourself a little bit or put it over
the
your
start
face.
the
There you go.
Start with Why book by Simon Sinek.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently finished reading that and actually outlining by chapter the things that I wanted to bring into my Scrum Master and Agile coaching
Mm-hmm.
practice, which I've actually started implementing with my teams. Um, the title of the book is basically kind of self-explanatory, but
Right.
it's talking about asking why you're doing something or why did you start doing something, and
Right.
it also talks about like what happens when that why kind of gets gray,
Okay.
and pe people don't no longer know like why they're doing something, that
Okay.
original core idea is no longer clear. And so I've started taking some of the ideas out of the book and started to talk to folks about um, kind of their basically their growth,
Mm-hmm.
and why they want to pursue the goals that they're pursuing, and
Mm-hmm.
how can I help them as a
Right.
Scrum Master and Agile coach, um, and things like that. So I'm just starting to apply some of those topics from the book.
Yeah.
I'm at the early stages, but I have started to incorporate that into my one-on-one sessions with my teams.
Okay. Good. Good. See that, and that's like I always say. People read books, Mike. But what are you doing with what you read, and what you got to apply it, or it's just gonna float away. So I'm glad to hear
Yeah,
that you're applying some of the things you're learning in that reading that book to your team. So that's great. And plus, they benefit from it too. If you just read it, no one else benefits it from what's the purpose behind that, right?
exactly.
So with that, tell us in the continuous learning path. Tell us something about what and why, or why you are presenting at our 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Meetup. What material you're going to present with us or share a little intro. Don't go into the whole presentation because it'll take away from our Wednesday, May
No,
17th,
I'm gonna save some.
5 a.m. Mester Scrum, but it's at 6 p.m. Just remind everybody it's not at 5 a.m. so you can attend. No, it's at 6 p.m. in the evening. Um, so tell us a little bit about your presentation. What you're going to
Yeah,
talk
so
about.
it's called the Scrum Master's Relationship Value Stream. So the idea that I put together for the presentation basically talks about the importance of talking to um, not only certain specific groups
Mm-hmm.
on your team, on your I'll say development team, that encompasses everybody,
Yeah.
product to DevOps. Um, Not only talking to certain groups or certain people, but expanding that
Mm-hmm.
conversation. And by doing that, you really help yourself, help the team
Right.
um, deliver better products.
Yeah. Okay.
You get different teams talking to each other. Um, so yeah, without giving away too much, I'm kind of struggling here trying to explain it, but without giving away too much, it's basically expanding that conversation.
Okay. Are we gonna do any exercises?
I think we might do maybe some simple exercises.
Okay.
I'm presenting using Mural.
Mural. There you go.
So I'm still looking at it for ideas for
Mm-hmm.
the presentation. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. We might have some surprises in there and get some
Okay.
folks to interact.
Well, good. I'm looking forward to your presentation on at the 5 a.m. Master Scrum Meetup program, and we're in the Wednesday, the 17th of May. So that's coming up in a couple weeks. It'll be here soon enough. You'll see a bunch of advertisings. Is there anything else you would like to share with anything we didn't cover? Any thoughts?
Oh man, I know. I think we covered a lot. So no, if anybody ever wants to reach out about agile topics or anything,
Yeah.
feel free to contact me. But no, I think we covered everything, Greg, and thank you for having me on on your show.
Okay. And if anybody has any group meetups or anything like that you would like to invite Scott to present at, feel free to message me or message him directly. And I'll connect you with him. And maybe go to our 5 a.m. Mester Scrum show or our meetup and find out what it's about. And he has some other topics too that he's working on in the future too. So that'd be cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Scott. Thanks for joining us and sharing some of your adventures as a Scrum Master or Agile Coach and going through a different part of your journey. So appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome.